Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 2,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Every once in a while, a Q&A comes along that doesn't just answer questions, it opens up entire conversations. It kicks down doors. It makes you sit forward in your chair and say, wait, hold on, let's actually dig into that. And that's exactly what happened when OG Jerome dropped his latest round of fan questions on the channel. The community showed up with everything from deep contract law around Kyler Murray's Arizona exit to philosophical debates about Vikings fan psychology to the eternal Messi versus Ronaldo argument. And Jerome, as always, gave his honest, unfiltered, entertaining perspective on all of it. But here's the thing. When you've got takes this good, they deserve to be put to the test. So today, we're doing something a little different. We went through every single answer Jerome gave in that Q&A, we did the research, we added context, we weighed the arguments, and we graded every single one of them. We're talking full-letter grades, complete analysis, and honest opinions on where Jerome nailed it, where he left something on the table, and where he might have gotten a little too generous or a little too harsh on himself. This is the Vikings fan Q&A graded. Let's go. The first question out of the gate was one of the more interesting ones of the bunch, and it got into some genuinely complicated territory. The fan wanted to know whether Kyler Murray had some kind of injury guarantee structure with the Arizona Cardinals in 2025 that incentivized the team to keep Jacoby Brissett, jokingly nicknamed Brisket, under center even after Murray got healthy, rather than putting their franchise quarterback back in the lineup. The underlying theory being that Arizona might have been protecting their financial exposure by keeping Murray sidelined. Jerome said he wasn't entirely sure about the specific guarantee structure, acknowledged the offense did flow better with Brissett, and ultimately landed on the take that the Cardinals' entire coaching staff got fired anyway. So the motivation to sit Murray for financial reasons didn't really hold water. He also added that Arizona's dysfunction starts at the top and probably won't change until ownership changes. Here's the grade. A-. Jerome got the most important point exactly right. The Cardinals finished 3-14 in 2025. Jonathan Gannon got fired. The whole operation collapsed. And the idea that the front office was playing sophisticated financial chess by benching Murray when their own jobs were evaporating around them just doesn't add up under scrutiny. But the financial reality of Murray's contract is actually even wilder than Jerome let on, and that's the only reason this isn't a perfect A. Murray had $36.8 million in fully guaranteed salary for 2026, and had he still been on Arizona's roster on the third day of the new league year, an additional $19.5 million for the 2027 season would have automatically become fully guaranteed. That's why the Cardinals moved so quickly to inform Murray he was being released when the offseason began. They were racing against a contractual deadline. Not just cleaning house after a bad season. The incentive to get him off the books before that trigger date had nothing to do with his health and everything to do with a financial grenade with a very specific pin. And Murray, to his credit, had played reasonably well in his 5 games before the foot injury, completing 68.3% of his passes with 6 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. The offense genuinely was worse with Brissett, who ironically produced better raw numbers while the team around him was completely depleted, which inflated the perception of his performance. Jerome's read on the overall dysfunction in Arizona is exactly right. The Cardinals went from legitimate Super Bowl contenders in the Kurt Warner era to a franchise that has been 4-13 twice in recent memory. The problems in that building run deep, and they weren't manufactured by any one quarterback. Grade A-. The second question was a fun hypothetical. Would you rather the Vikings go 11-6, losing every single division game, or go 6-11 winning every single division game? Jerome didn't hesitate. He took 11-6 every time, pointing out that you're probably still getting into the playoffs as a wild card and maybe still sneaking into the division title on tiebreakers, versus sitting at home in January with 6 wins against Green Bay, Chicago, and Detroit and nothing else to show for it. Grade A+. This is actually not as simple as it sounds on the surface, and Jerome got it completely right. An 11-win team almost certainly makes the playoffs. A 6-win team stays home regardless of who those wins came against. Bragging rights over division rivals are genuinely meaningless if you're watching January football on your couch. The whole point of the regular season is to get into the tournament, and once you're in the tournament, anything can happen. A team that goes 11-6 and sneaks into the wild card round with a chip on its shoulder after losing every division game gets its revenge in the postseason. That's the scenario. That's the dream. Jerome didn't overthink this one at all, and that's why it's a perfect grade. Now we get to the take that quietly carries the most emotional weight of the entire Q&A, because the question was about one of the most underappreciated Vikings of this entire generation. The fan asked whether Danielle Hunter retires as a Viking or a Texan, and Jerome said a Texan, with clear respect and love for Hunter, explaining his roots in the Houston area, the racetracks down there, the no-state income tax lifestyle, and the fact that Hunter is simply thriving in Houston and isn't going to pull a Randy Moss or Kevin Garnett and come back for a sentimental farewell. Jerome also gave Hunter his flowers, talking about how difficult Hunter's role was for years as the close-side defensive end rushing into the quarterback's field of vision on a right-handed passer, which is genuinely the harder assignment and the less glamorous edge position. Grade A. Jerome is almost certainly right that Hunter retires a Texan, and the respect he showed for what Hunter accomplished in Minnesota deserves to be recognized. Let's actually put some numbers on this thing, because the career Hunter has built deserves a proper accounting. Through his career spanning the Vikings and the Texans, Hunter has racked up over 114.5 career sacks across 10 seasons. He became the youngest player in NFL history to reach 50 career sacks back in 2019, at which point he was already being talked about as a Hall of Fame trajectory player. Then he missed almost 2 full seasons with a neck injury and a torn pectoral muscle. 2 injuries that didn't just cost him games, they potentially cost him one of the greatest pass rusher resumes in NFL history. Jerome mentioned the neck thing, and he's right that it changed the conversation entirely. Because without those lost seasons, we're talking about a player who might have a genuinely ironclad Hall of Fame case rather than a decent argument. With Houston in 2025, Hunter racked up 15 sacks, earned second-team All-Pro honors, and led the entire NFL in quarterback pressures. In the sack era, only 26 players in the history of professional football have more sacks than Danielle Hunter. He is now 24 away from cracking the all-time top 10, and he just signed another 1-year extension with Houston worth $40 million. He is not coming back to Minnesota. He is exactly where he wants to be, home in Texas, thriving, building a legacy. Jerome nailed it, and the Hall of Fame case is stronger than he gave it credit for. Grade A. Next, we got to perhaps the most philosophically rich question in the entire Q&A, and this is the one that really opens up the floor for Vikings Nation as a whole. The fan asked whether the Minnesota Vikings are actually toxic, or whether the fan base just expects too much and that makes everything feel toxic. And Jerome gave a genuinely thoughtful, funny, and honest answer. He talked about the Vikings having the best winning percentage in NFL history without a Super Bowl win, meaning this isn't a franchise that has been irredeemably bad for decades. He talked about how Vikings fans have this gallows humor instinct, where even when things are going well, there's always a voice in the back of your head waiting for the other shoe to drop. And he compared being a Vikings fan to being a craps player who already knows the 7 is coming and has to decide whether to take their place bets down before it arrives. Grade A+. This is the best answer in the entire Q&A, and it deserves a perfect score. Jerome put his finger on something that is genuinely unique about the Minnesota Vikings fan experience. This is not a suffering fan base like the Jets, who have spent decades watching truly bad football on a consistent basis. This is a fan base that has watched its team win regularly, produce elite players, build great defenses, and then find some new and spectacular way to break your heart right at the moment when a championship seemed possible. The Minneapolis Miracle. The NFC Championship game meltdown in New Orleans. Blair Walsh. Gary Anderson missing the only kick of the season that mattered. This is a different kind of pain. It's not the pain of losing, it's the pain of being close enough to touch it and then watching it slip away. And that is exactly why Vikings fans have that gallows humor. Because when you've been let down in ways that seem almost cosmically designed to hurt as much as possible, you either laugh or you lose your mind. Jerome's craps analogy is perfect. You know the 7 might be coming. You love this team anyway. You take the bet anyway. That's what it means to be Vikings Nation. Full marks. A+. And then, because Q&As are allowed to go absolutely anywhere they want, we ended up at FIFA and the Messi versus Ronaldo debate, an absolute physical freak of nature operating at the absolute outer limits of human athletic capability. A player whose physical tools are so extraordinary they seem almost unfair. And he noted that Messi literally had to take growth hormones as a teenager just to get to 5'7", which somehow makes his dominance even more absurd when you think about it. Jerome went with Messi partly on the merits and partly because he just likes him better, which is actually the most honest possible elf, while Jerome's take is solid. The specific point about Messi's teammates and his team-first mentality versus Ronaldo's legendary self-focus is actually one of the strongest arguments in Messi's favor, and Jerome touched on it but didn't fully develop it. When the books about Messi's Barcelona years are stacked up against the accounts from Ronaldo's clubs, the contrast in locker room culture is pretty stark. Jerome had the right instinct but left some ammunition on the table. Grade B+, and reminds you why you showed up in the first place. So let's total up the scorecard. Kyler Murray injury guarantee question, A-. Jerome got the big picture right and the Cardinals' chaos is real, but the specific financial mechanics of that contract deadline add even more dramatic context to what was already a messy situation. 11-6 versus 6-11, A+. No notes, make the playoffs. Everything else is noise. Danielle Hunter retiring as a Texan, A, exactly right, and the respect for Hunter's career was earned and deserved. Vikings fans toxic or just paranoid, A+. The craps analogy belongs in a museum. FIFA and Messi versus Ronaldo, B+. Good takes, could have gone deeper on both fronts. Mbappe reveal, A+. Cannot be argued with. Overall grade for the OG Jerome Q&A, A. Consistent, honest, well-reasoned, occasionally brilliant, and always entertaining. That's what Vikings content is supposed to look like. Vikings Nation, now I want to hear from you. Do you agree with our grades? Did Jerome deserve higher on the Kyler Murray question, or did we give him too much credit? And most importantly, where do you land on the biggest debate of the Q&A? Is it really better to go 11-6 losing every division game, or would you take those 6 division wins and the bragging rights even if it means sitting home in January? Drop your answer in the comments right now, because this community always brings the best perspectives. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button right now and ring the bell, because we are covering this Vikings season from every possible angle, all the way through training camp, all the way through the regular season, all the way until Minnesota finally gets what this fan base has been waiting for. Skol Vikings. Let's go get it.